You've eaten Gotham's wealth, its spirit, but your feast is nearly over.
This isn't a mud hole. It's an operating table. And I'm the surgeon. Why aren't you laughing?
From this moment on, none of you are safe.
Welcome to the Batman Book Club, a podcast exploring the Dark Knight Library. I'm your host, Ryan Lauer. Batman Book Club is a proud member of the Batman Podcast Network, hosted by Batman on Film. Just go to batmanonfilm.com, click on podcasts, and you'll find the Batman Podcast Network. Batman Book Club's also on Patreon, so if you like what's going on with the show and you want to help support the show and keep those generators running in the Wayne Manor study, go to patreon.com/thebatmanbc. Now, thank you for listening to episode 197, The Joker. Speaking of Batman on Film, I've got the head honcho from the site. He's the gumbo guru around these parts. Bill Ramey is returning back to the show. Bill, thanks for coming back to the Batman Book Club.
Thanks for letting me come back on.
Of course.
And of course, I always say when we do the social hour, thank y'all for letting me, do that show on Batman on Film. So
yeah.
I appreciate it.
You have to ask a lot of permission to do these Batman talkings.
That's
on
right.
On the interwebs. I think it's been a while since you've been on here solo, because I think the last time you were on, which was cool, it was quite a while ago, but we had the great Michael Uslan on, and you and I just kind of played passengers and let him just kind of run the show.
That was the last one. Was when Michael was on, right? Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Last one you were on was then. So, now he's. We have more mic time for you and I to dig into a good one here.
Well, he's the professor, and I just sat back and let
We're
him
just students.
let him school us. Yes, absolutely.
I sat there acting like I knew what I was talking about, but clearly I didn't know anything. It's like, you sir, just talk. We're gonna dip very far back now. What are we at? 84 years. Yeah, 84 years. We're going to dip back to the first issue of the Batman comic, Batman #1. And we're going to talk a story contained in that issue called The Joker. It's pretty simple. It says exactly what it is. And all of us now know this is the debut of The Joker, written by Bill Finger. Art by Bob Kane, obviously released in 1940. It was released physically. I mention how else you can find certain issues or stories there. I mean, you can find this anywhere, everywhere, contained in many collections all over the place, digitally in many collections and all that. So I'm just going to skip listing and just go straight to Bill. Which version did you read for this episode?
From the Batman Chronicles, Volume 1.
There you go. In which the Batman Chronicles, that was like the first trade that was releasing like every Batman issue in order, right? And I forget how many volumes that got up to, maybe 10, 11. And then it seems like they just stopped. Yeah. And then they released collections of Batman the Golden Age. And I think that kind of replaced the Chronicles line. And
did they repeat some of the stories?
Yeah, like they started from Detective 27 and went all the way through. I don't know if there's six. Six is good. 6 volumes of that, maybe a couple more, and then they started to dip into the Golden Age or the Silver Age after that. For me, I actually checked this out on my favorite app of all time, Hoopla, and read it digitally in The Joker, a celebration of 75 years.
Okay.
I have multiple things that they're in the archives right now that has this issue collected, including like the Golden Age Volume 1 that I already mentioned. But yeah, so I read this one digitally. Do you remember when you first read this?
I was a kid, and I don't know. Probably it was in like, they would have these oversized comics that would have like a couple of new stories, and then
Mhm.
it would be full of like golden age and old stories. So I'm assuming it was from one of those.
Because then,
But yeah,
then it was like like if I'm not mistaken, you had to go find Batman 1 to read this, unless they reprinted these
probably.
like older
Yeah,
stories in the backs of issues to get history.
yeah,
This was before the trade collections and all that stuff, right?
yeah. Yes, absolutely. I mean, I was a
This is
kid. So
was the Joker scary to you at that time, at this point? Or did you see Caesar Romero when you read this and you're like, ha ha ha?
no, I'm trying to figure what came first, either me reading the Joker from Batman #1 or um, the Joker's Five-Way Revenge in
Oh
Batman
yeah. Okay.
251. So, they before I read those, the Joker was Cesar Romero to
Hmm.
me.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the reasons why 251 of Batman has such a big impact on me is I'm reading it and thinking, this Joker isn't, he's not some funny gesture
Yeah.
laughing guy, Mr. Freeze, so but yeah, I mean clearly, that's what Batman 251 did, is
Hmm.
bring back the original incarnation of the Joker, and they're pretty similar.
Hmm. Yeah, and I'm looking up now. Oh wow. Episode 59 of this show in June of 2021, you were on here talking Joker's Five-Way Revenge. I had to look that up because
Okay.
that was one of your first ones that you were like, I gotta talk that one. Because as
Yeah.
you've said, that's your favorite story, favorite Batman story.
Favorite individual Batman story? Yes,
Yeah.
for many reasons.
Yep. I do not remember when I first read this. I couldn't
Okay.
guess at all. I think I was a little later in the game because my first two like trades I ever got or as gifts as a kid, Lonely Place of Dying, and then the greatest Batman stories ever told, and this was not included in the greatest Batman stories ever told. And then trade collections after that was like, Nightfall and then Year One and then Killing Joke. And so at some point in probably early 2000s is when I was able to get my hands on some collections that had this first story in it that I read. So, I mean, yeah, by then, I was a teenager getting my first, and I'd already experienced a lot of other Joker stories before I read this one. And then lastly, and I asked if you wanted to come back on. Why did you choose this story?
Well, I asked first if anyone had done it. And I was kind of surprised,
Yeah,
to
yep.
be honest, that hadn't been done. And me, I like the historical, or the stories that have a lot of historical significance.
Yeah.
And certainly Batman #1 has a lot of
Hmm.
historical significance. Yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
And
there you go.
I'm with you. I think I think people, and rightfully so. I mean, I totally get it. Of they like choosing, like flashier, maybe newer-ish than going way back because, comics read differently in 1940s than they do now, than they did
Yeah.
in the 70s and the 80s, 90s. Uh, but I think as we'll get into it here of like it didn't surprise me. And I know there's another one you were flirting with too. And neither one
Yeah.
really
We'll save
surprised
that one.
me.
We'll
Yeah,
save that one.
neither really surprised me that's why that those were ones you were thinking about. But I'm glad you landed on this one just for like historical context. And I haven't
Yeah.
like honestly I haven't read this one in a little while either.
It's
So
been a while since I read it.
it's good to
So
revisit it.
yeah.
Uh I think I think we should start like obviously as it says this is the debut of the Joker. Now, in looking up some stuff, there's three creditors in the creation of Joker of Bill Finger, Bob Kane, and Jerry
Mhm.
Robinson. What I looked up had a little variation pending who told the story on how Joker got created. By your memory, playing gotcha here. Like your memory and knowledge of like what are you familiar with as far as how he was created?
I'll go by what I was taught by the professor,
No, okay.
Mr. Uslan. And I actually went to a Comic-Con panel in San Diego with him and Jerry Robinson
There you go.
and sat right in the front
Nice.
where I learned a lot about the creation of the Joker. And I would say that from that and talking to Michael over the years, and I do think that different people had their hands in it, but Jerry Robinson probably had two hands in there, and while others may have had a hand or a couple fingers. If that makes
Gotcha.
sense.
Yeah.
Fingers. It's all connected.
Yes, it's all connected. The I made sure to go to my archives actually, and I don't know if you remember this book. It's just called The Joker by Daniel Wallace.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's a great book. I haven't read it or looked in this in quite a while, but I wanted to see see the beginnings and match up stories. The obvious thing that everybody I think goes to is Conrad Veidt in The Man Who Laughs.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's an obvious one that like any any story you read or look up on the creation of the Joker, he's there. And so that's an
Yep.
obvious influence. A Joker card obviously is an influence. Uh, the Coney Island steeplechase sign is something that I'd forgotten when I'd read this book, and there's a picture included. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Apparently that was like an
No.
influence of Robinson.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? Let me take a look at that. Yeah. I think I've seen that before. Yes. Yes. Okay.
And there's an image of a man smiling on that, and I think that definitely, that has some similarities to it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't there. I didn't meet either of these people, haven't heard them or nothing, but I just looked up what I saw, and Jerry Robinson had the steeplechase part, Finger had a bit of like a Joker, the Joker card aspect, and then I think and maybe he had the Man Who Laughs, which I still have never seen. I need to watch it just so I know that I've seen it. But I know Bob Kane, I think on Wikipedia in an interview, he'd said in like 94 of just like Jerry Robinson will always say that he's part creator until the day that he dies and blah blah blah. But he didn't have much of a hand. It was me and Bill Finger and wasn't there. I don't know. I just know those
Yeah.
three names. Yeah, like you kind of said, of their names are mentioned, they have creation, but then oh man, did you get to actually go up and meet Robinson like afterward or
I
anything?
did.
You did.
Yes.
Okay. How was he?
Yeah. Very nice.
Very nice.
Very nice. Yeah.
What do you say in a moment like that? I know he's since passed, but to go to me like, hey, I like your Joker character.
That's exactly what I said. I use that voice.
Okay. Okay, good.
Well, luckily Michael was there.
Okay.
Michael was he was the moderator.
Okay.
And so I went up and said, "Hey, hello, Mr. Uslan." And, and he said, "Bill, you have to meet Jerry Robinson." And I was like, "Okay, I will meet Jerry Robinson." Because
I'm
you got to
Bill
use that
Ramey.
voice.
Yeah.
So just, you shake his hand and say, "Nice to meet you, sir."
Yeah. I think the fascinating thing, and I'm not a historian on Jerry Robinson, but I know enough of it's fascinating to me. And similar to Bob Kane, I think was like 17 when he was being a cartoonist.
Yeah.
Or something. But Robinson was like an assistant at 17. Very young, and then to think he had a hand or both hands in the creation of Joker and stuff like that young is, it's kind of mind-boggling to me at that. But so yeah, characters created. It's definitely it was mentioned about like editors and I think Robinson and himself, but then also dialogue in this story too of like giving Batman more of a threat as opposed to just like some of these mob criminals that are taken down by a couple punches and done. And I think Batman even mentions at one point of there being someone who's not as someone who's a little bit more tough than what he's used to seeing. This was, I think what I looked up, this was like the 13th Batman story. Like after
Okay.
through
Yeah.
Detective and everything. And in Batman #1, I don't know that you can necessarily count it, but it's like the opening is like the origin story of Batman. Um, and then it jumps into the Joker in the actual issue. But I think there was 12 before this story. Not much of a threat up to this point. In this, not this story, but also included in Batman #1 was a story where Joker originally was going to die at the end of that issue, and they
Hmm.
made sure that he didn't because they started to
Yeah.
feel that there's something
Yeah.
here. And all of
Yeah.
us, I think, are very glad that they made that adjustment so that he lived. But in this story, um, I mean, let's talk about like what's been your impression of this story, revisiting it this time? Like, what's your impression of how this one holds up?
I think it holds up really well, and I see its influence. You see its influence in The Dark Knight, the movie.
I have a big bullet point here that we're going to talk about the Dark Knight because I love to
Yeah.
talk about the Dark Knight whenever I can, but
Yeah.
this one actually makes sense.
Yeah. Yes. Um, it's um, it's a clever story,
Hmm.
you know, with and there is I like the Joker comes, but it's so date, people at night sit and listen to the radio, and
Yeah.
all the dialogue in my mind here is like, it's like grotesque, yeah, see the Joker, yeah, you see the
Yeah.
Joker, see, that,
Yeah. See?
yeah, see,
Hmm.
yeah, it sounds like that in my mind when I'm reading some of these, characters in this comic, like the cops or whatever. But
Hmm.
it's the Joker announcing his crimes, and then he explains how he pulled it off, because they're all, how did he do it, and the
Yeah.
cops are like, there's, surrounding these people when Joker announces that I'm going to kill such and such at 12 midnight. The Joker has spoken. Ha 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 ha, whatever, ha 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 ha, ha
Yeah.
ha.
Okay.
Got
Ha.
that right. Yeah. So, and then he's like, these fools, they think, they did not, and I don't know, he doesn't have any, he has no minions in here. It's like
Hmm.
he's in a lair by himself. So he's talking, just, he's just talking out loud. I don't know, to who to himself,
An
but
interior designer as well.
yeah.
He's
Yes,
got, I think
yeah,
it's like a tiger skin rug. He's got a big like
yeah.
theater mask on the wall, and he's got furniture and this big old throne. It's, it's sure, why not? It's comic books there
Because
it's
yeah,
a simpler time and like not like fans didn't demand explanation. It just
yeah,
was kind of like the Joker
yeah,
himself. Joker just is at this point.
yes,
Hop right into it. And like you said, of couples sitting on the at the radio, yes, you take that time and how they. I love the quick reference because it's still pretty fresh of the like the opening couple when they hear the Joker and he says, "Oh, first, like you just said, ha, that's just a gag."
yeah,
Like that fellow who scared everybody with that story about Mars the last time.
yeah.
I'm not. I don't know if anybody's unaware, but I think one of the most fascinating stories is to visit that reference of the original broadcast of War of the Worlds and the
Yeah.
panic it induced at the time. It was
Orson Welles, yeah.
one I'd heard in high school, and then in college we listened to the broadcasts in our media class, and did stuff and whatever, and it's pretty fascinating. So I love that little reference in that, but like I think it's a story that it's like its bones are very strong. And
Hmm.
all it necessarily needs is just like, some freshening up, a couple of fresh coats of paint, with the times. I think it's very relatable in a sense to the 70s, the Laughing Fish story from Englehart and Rogers. Very relatable to that. Um, Retold in the 2005 story, The Man Who Laughs by Ed Brubaker and
Hmm.
Doug Mank Monkey. it's a retelling of it, and I think that totally works because it's updating the time with language and art and stuff. And then, as we just saw in the Batman the Brave and the Bold title that Tom King and Mitch Gerads did of the winning card was a retelling of this, but through a 2023 lens. And I thought, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, they didn't really change the story that much. They just updated it to make it feel like how we read that story. I feel is maybe how comic book readers read this back in 1940. There's an
Sure.
era of like scariness and like unpredictability, and the Joker's a very valid threat. And so I think it's telling that this story gets retold, but it's not like eye rolling of like, oh, another remake of this story. It's just a fresh coat of paint. And I think it just kind of
Mhm.
it works. And that tells something about the roots of the story itself.
Yeah. Clearly, I mean, the Joker has, I mean, we know the Joker eventually, not too long after this, the Joker became like a harmless prankster type.
Yeah.
Uh, not, and I don't want to say menace, but like annoyance to Batman, you know.
Yeah.
But this
In
was his
that
original. Yeah,
in sorry, but real quick, I mean, you say that in the Joker, a celebration of 75 years, there's like write-ups in between stories, and they even say exactly what you just said. And
really.
the Joker's last murder for several years took place in Laugh Town Laugh, Detective Comics number 62, which was 1942. And basically,
Hmm.
then, like, after that story, for a long time, he was what you just said. He
Yeah,
was just like a prankster.
from 42 to 73,
Yeah.
basically
Wow. Wow. Can you
30
imagine that
years.
from right now?
Yeah,
And 30, like, Joker just kind of becomes a gimmick and ha 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 ha. And 30 years from now, we'll get scary Joker back.
yeah.
I don't want that.
No, it's
I don't want that.
so yeah. I mean, but you think about, I mean, the Joker is what, 84,
Hmm.
84 years of the Joker. So you had what, uh, just a few years, 2 or 3 years there at the beginning, and then that 30-year gap, and then of course since 1973, we're talking 51 years now. The Joker's been what he was originally intended to be.
Yeah.
You know.
Hmm. I mean, credit that all to, and I know you can go back and listen to like the when we talked about Five Way Revenge, but I mean that was orchestrated by Denny O'Neil, was it not?
Hmm.
Of returning
Yes.
him back to how he originally was.
Yes. Yes.
Uh, this and so even though I'm not too fresh in the sense of there's certain issues. Five Way Revenge, I'm pretty fresh on because I reread that a lot, and Year One, fresh on Long Halloween. This era of Batman stories, I'm not too fresh on because I can't just sit and binge read these. Like
Yeah.
they're a little
Yeah.
harder read for me to get through. But
Lots of dialogue.
a lot of dialogue. I mean,
A
it's
lot
so
of
funny.
dialogue and just a short story.
Hmm.
I
Exactly.
think we've
They're
said
like
that before.
13 pages or
Yeah.
something. But it's like it crams a lot of dialogue in those 13 pages, in which maybe some people like that, maybe some people don't. I don't know. But for me, it just like it's a little harder of a read. But I think this one actually, and I was surprised by this too, of in this reread of like I think this one reads pretty well.
It does.
I think
It does.
the story moves because you've got like what is it, four situations of the Joker's like
Mhm.
announcing and then going through with it, like four encounters with Joker. Uh, and so I just kind of think like, there's a good pacing here, that's done in let's see the Judge Henry Claridge, not Judge Henry
Mhm.
Claridge, Jay Wild, old Brute Nelson, which that was
Brute
an adjustment.
Nelson. Yeah.
What a good
I
name.
like that. Yeah.
A mobster in this story, but in that retelling of the winning card they just did, Brute Nelson was just like a playboy
Yeah.
kind of doofus. And then Judge Drake was another one that he did that Joker announces to go get here. In which spoiler alert, he does. So yeah, there's four murders in this, and since I'm not too fresh on the stories that came before it, it
Mhm.
made me curious on if this is maybe the most violent quote unquote violent Batman story yet. I don't know how much murder there was in previous, Batman stories.
Hmm.
And
I
not
think
like
it's probably on par. If I
yeah,
just remember, it's on par with. I mean, we're talking about what you mentioned. This is the 13th Batman story.
yeah.
So yeah, this is, I would say, on par with a lot of
And
the other
and,
stuff.
and funny because in a way that that can squeak by as being like have an impact because there isn't like there's no slashing, there's not an ounce of red blood or anything like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
It's the smile, but you get the point across because they
yeah,
say basically he's dead, but it's like that
yeah,
smile, and that's just as effective. That's such a great gimmick of the Joker that's lasted. If there's anything, I mean, you said The Dark Knight when we saw that prologue of the bank robbery when that pin is pulled in that bomb of that bank manager's mouth. I thought the first time I saw it, since all I saw was the prologue, I was like, oh man, I wonder if we go back and see him and his face is in that smile because there's gas. Not to say I was disappointed that that wasn't there, but it was just kind of, there I was, let's see, 2008. So what are we at there? 68 years later. And I was like, is it going to be the smile? Is it going to be the
yeah,
smile?
yeah, yeah.
Great gimmick that's still, um, that we still think of. Uh, as I said, 13th story. I didn't even consider this, but I looked up. You remember Andrew Farago's big Batman book that came out in 2019. That was the anniversary book. Um, he talked about this issue briefly, and he brought it up, and I was like, oh, that this was the first time Batman was called the Dark Knight.
Yeah. I made a note of that.
All
Yes.
right. Yeah, so there we go. A little Batman history for hopefully everybody learned. Yeah, look at that. He's the Dark Knight, birthed in Batman #1, 1940. Let's see what else do I got out. Let's talk about the Dark Knight.
Okay.
I can do that any day, all day. The influences is so I mentioned before in here when I talked Strange Apparitions, and we know backstory of that version Joker. That's Jack Nicholson's Joker in '89. Is the
Sure.
Strange Apparitions Joker,
Yeah.
like essentially.
Yeah.
Um, Heath's Joker in The Dark Knight, this, and this firsthand because you talk to people there, like on the set. Um, yes, there's like some Killing Joke influence there, but then really comparing and contrasting, there's a lot of influence of this issue
Hmm.
on Heath's performance and story
Hmm.
as the Joker. What,
Yes.
what, in reading it this time, like, I don't know how a reaction, but almost like a little like, like what all moments were you instantly like, yes,
Well,
yes, yes.
yes. I was able to talk to Christopher Nolan about this,
Yeah. Yeah.
and talking about how the Joker just is.
Hmm.
We don't need an origin. I think he's scarier if there is no origin. And this first Batman story with the Joker, he just is. So you
Hmm.
have that aspect, you know. This reminded me of that again. The there's a little bit in the Dark Knight. I mean, not a little bit, but when he takes to the video camera
Hmm.
and TV, and if Coleman Reese is blah blah blah, this and that's all comes from the Joker announcing his crimes from this story.
Just updating the tool.
Yes,
That's
yes.
all.
um the the cop, when he's disguised as the police chief,
Oh yes.
you know
Oh yes.
um there's that real the police got them at the funeral where the commissioner, and you briefly see Heath Ledger as the Joker, but without his makeup on, you
Mhm.
know, as part of that group of fake cops that were there. That's another influence. So I really, man, there's a lot of I say a
Yeah.
lot. It just, but that's a lot of for one comic from 1940. It's a pretty big influence
Yeah.
on that film, you know?
Yeah. And I think it's just taking core elements, of like the announcement, like you said, the clever ways of outsmarting
Uh-huh.
um the police and such.
Yes. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, and I remember that the Dark Knight teaser trailer where all we heard was audio as the bat symbol was slowly starting to get revealed, and we hear that Joker, starting tonight, people will die, which was,
That's the first
al
when I
alteration
what
of the audio, because that's not how the movie
yeah,
plays out. But starting tonight, people will die. Oh, man of my word, that thing.
yeah.
I mean, it was so fun to listen to it and kind of just create an image in your head of like, what are we going to see when he's saying this in the movie? But that's
Yes.
almost like that's in like meant to or not. It's like that's a complete nod in itself of how the Joker would have relayed the message in 1940. It's like we're
Yeah.
listening to a radio basically, and he's chiming
Yeah.
in and he's making his threats
Yeah.
of somebody's going to die. Like that's what
Yeah.
this freaking comic did.
Yeah. I was at Comic-Con when that teaser came out, San Diego Comic-Con, and that's the first thing I thought of is
Hmm.
Batman #1, and the Joker announcing his crimes that he's going to commit murders, that murders and robberies at the same time. And you know that when I'm reading this, really, it's Heath Ledger's Joker voice for this Joker.
Hmm.
But
It's,
clearly, when I'm probably hear me
can
fumbling
you
around. Yeah.
can you hear Heath Ledger is saying about like if the police expect to play against the Joker, they had best be prepared to be dealt from the bottom of the deck. Ha ha
Yes.
hoo hee ha. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's a little
Yeah.
bit of like that dialogue can be updated.
Yeah. I mean, the dialogue itself, yes,
Hmm.
but the the sound of the voice, and there's
Hmm.
almost a little bit of that. All right, all right, see, with Heath
Yeah.
Ledger's Joker, isn't there a little bit of that
Yeah.
thrown in? I
Yeah, a
know
little
he had
bit.
said something. He told Nolan, like, I'm kind of like going with like how ventriloquists talk.
A ventriloquist talk, and my gosh, I forget the musician's name.
Yeah,
Um, that was brought up of like this had to be because it was an Australian. Um, oh my gosh. When you listen to the guy, Tom Waits,
I Tom Waits. Yeah, yeah,
like when I finally listened to him on one of the talk show that he was on and I heard his voice, I was like, holy shit, there's no way that this wasn't an influence on that voice. So anybody listening that
yeah.
doesn't know what I'm talking about, look it up. Tom Waits, Waits, Heath Ledger, and kind of mind blowing. But yeah, I'm with you. Like, and I mean, that just shows like the kind of mark that obviously anybody that's heard me open my mouth knows my love for Ledger's Joker. But yeah,
If
there's moments of that his dialogue here that I could hear a little bit of that voice.
he had said at one point, if he had said, "I'm a man of my," instead of saying "I'm a man of my word," if he said, "The Joker has spoken," ha ha ha, and I would have lost it, right?
Yeah. You'd have been so giddy of just like, oh my gosh, he said it, telling whoever would listen. As everybody's like, shut up, I'm trying to watch the movie. I'm like, but no,
And
you don't
I,
understand.
I wonder how many people who have seen The Dark Knight have appreciation
Yeah.
for what comes from this story.
I have more
You know?
now. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I have more now.
Even I do. Yes.
Because it's been quite a
Or
while since I've read this
it's
one.
probably over. It's probably doesn't even register with
True.
most people.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. but it is fun to just go through here with that stuff, all the things that you said, and I have it open now to him as the police officer holding that Joker card, and
Mm-hmm.
the panel right next to it is talking to the judge. So this is a bit of a stretch, but also like for me, I'm like, well, I guess it does make sense that one of the victims in this story is a judge, one of the victims in The Dark Knight is a judge. But that that panel made me think of the Killing Joke,
Mm-hmm.
and Batman and Joker sitting down with the cards, and then the one isn't exactly who you think he is. Here,
Yeah.
the cop isn't who you think he is, and the Killing Joke, quote unquote, the Joker is not really the Joker. Also a stretch, but that's just kind of like instantly where my mind went, like the framing and the car, like in what's in that panel. It's just like that's where my mind went. But I think it's illustrated even well there too with the judge, an eeriness about it when Joker's getting ready to leave and after he's dead, and just the positioning that the judge is in, his hands holding up that Joker card and the judge's head's awkwardly just leaned back with a smile. I'm like, that's just like maybe that's why I think this one holds up well, given its
Yeah.
84 year, it's 84 years old. Is like there's still some good kind of eeriness with this.
They even, with the judge scene and him being disguised as the chief, there's also, with his, well, the judge is like, you, the police chief, the Joker, and he's like, he explained, how disguise is one of his many accomplishments,
Mm-hmm.
him being some kind of master disguise. So I just wonder at that time, they're just like, he just is, is
Yep.
he, when he's the Joker, is it, was it makeup? They hadn't come up with the falling into the vat of chemicals, Red Hood thing yet. So I just way I prefer the Joker too. So that's one of the reasons I'm so fond of this story. And that doesn't, fine. You give me the explanation. That's fine. He's master disguise. I did like when he's in a freaking suit of armor,
Yeah. Yeah.
which, you kind of want to go, okay, how did he get in the suit of armor? Well, who cares? You
Yeah.
know, who cares?
I don't care. He just is. He's
I mean,
there.
we've seen those kind of shenanigans in
Yeah.
shows. Someone, just happens to be in the suit of armor all the time.
It's also cool. Like
Yeah,
it's also cool. I don't
yeah,
like, and it fits because it's like it's not being completely repetitive, but with Claridge being killed, it's like, okay, he's in a room filled with police officers all around. How's the Joker gonna get to him? Oh,
yeah,
he got to him before he made the announcement.
yes, yeah,
So he was thinking way
yeah.
ahead of,
Spoiler alert.
yeah,
It's
ahead of
only
time.
84 years, ago, but yeah.
So basically the crime's already been committed before it's
Yes.
even announced.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so then, okay, so now we need to move on to the next victim. How do you heighten that?
Yeah.
Because they're already, okay, well, we saw what he did. Is he going to do that again? No, he does something different. He's already hiding. He's already in the area. And
Mm-hmm.
the gas, the darts, and got him again. There's just like an elevation with each
Yeah.
time. And then you think when he's gonna get old Brute, that Brute's, got his posse there ready to take him down. Well, then there's the interference of the Batman, in which
Mm-hmm.
Joker, he capitalizes on that. Like basically while Batman's busy with those guys, oh, I'll take out Brute. And two elements here that I'm thinking of. One, I mean, it's just like notable that I do like there's a physical confrontation between Batman and Joker.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I like later on how the dart with the laughing stuff, you know what? It's and he shoots Batman with it, but the
Yes.
Joker has not reckoned with the amazing recuperative powers of the mighty Batman.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like Batman can just shrug it off. It's like
Yeah.
you start to see in the panel below, almost like there is a little grin forming. It's very small, but then the next one, it's almost like Batman just said no, and so that they just move on. I
Yeah.
appreciate kind of how hokey that is.
and he wears, he even, Batman says, bulletproof vest.
Yes.
The Joker's
Bulletproof
shooting at him.
vest.
So see, he's got armor on even in 1940. Come on
That's right.
now.
Another element, I'll give you the floor here. The inclusion of Robin in this story.
Yeah.
Robin's new here. This
Yes.
isn't his debut, but Robin's fresh, hot off the presses at this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am not a Robin hater. Dick Grayson is my favorite Robin. I can appreciate Robin being included. My preference, solo Batman. In this
Yes.
story, how important is Robin in this issue? Or this story, not the issue as a whole, this story.
I think
Exactly.
you could have.
It's
Yeah.
like
I think you could have told us. This is clearly, to me, an example of why Robin was brought into Batman comics, because it's straight up pretty much solo Batman story for most of it. Even basically he's kind of like, you stay home, I'm gonna go deal with this at one point, right?
Yeah.
And then Robin's just, it just shows up,
Mm-hmm.
at one point, and he's tied up. The Joker Joker, bops him in the head and Snooper, eh? Yeah, Snooper, eh?
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then it's then Batman and Joker fight. And that's when he shoots him with the laughing, the Joker venom dart, and all that. And then Robin shows up, but it's not like Robin saved him from that, because it's kind of like we get Batman's like, he's such a freaking alpha that it even exists. The alpha in him even goes to his physical abilities to thwart off a poison, not like he's supernatural or anything. He's just, he's Batman, damn it. And then it's just, there's a scene of them run, and you could have told the whole story without Robin, really. But it's like I said, it's so the kid reading it, the kid who's, the purpose was have young kids that, identify with Robin, so they, envision themselves as Batman's partner. It's kind of like, now I'm the reader, I'm the kid joining, I'm part of the story now.
Yeah.
I was always I always wanted to be freaking Batman. So
yeah, I never dreamed of being Robin.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, if I was Robin, I'd just be like, when's Batman gonna be done so I can be Batman?
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
So for me, I feel like the first, there's only like, let's see, most of the story, halfway through the story, Robin shows up in 2 panels as Dick Grayson. And he serves as just someone for Bruce to bounce dialogue off of.
Yes.
And then when he does suit up as Robin, and this was Batman Forever, like this was my problem in Batman Forever, even as a 9-year-old watching that movie, was like, Robin helped Batman out of the rubble. Then Robin had a cool suit. Went with Batman. All right, here we go. Batman and Robin are going to fight. Robin gets captured.
Yeah.
So Robin got introduced in this movie, but he got captured. In this story, Robin got captured. So it's just to what? Get Batman to the location, remove Robin. Batman's got his infrared lamp.
Yeah.
To get both Robin and Joker's footprints.
Yep.
Could have probably just got Joker's footprints.
Yeah.
Into the location.
Yes.
So I'm like with you on the sense of, no, it doesn't, like, there's not an overreaction of Robin being included here. I'm not annoyed because Robin's included here. It's like objectively trying to look at this, and it's like, I think it could have had the same impact with no Robin.
Yes.
So therefore,
then,
of course, could have been without.
He almost commits murder. He kicks the Joker knocks him off the ledge of the scaffolding, and Batman grabs him. You're
Yeah.
too valuable of a prize to lose, he says.
Laid your last hand, Joker.
Yes.
Um, I did the two shot of Batman and Robin running. Like that's flat out Adam West, Burt Ward. Not a moment to
Yeah.
lose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and then yeah, then a good shot that ends of Joker's busted when we see in the Daily Star, soon to be renamed Gotham Gazette, I'm sure. Batman captures Joker, leaves Joker in front of police station, drives away. I love that breakdown. He just drives
I
away, you know?
love I love the end. They have kind of the amazing Batman, America's most famous adventure strip character, with
Yeah.
that sensational new discovery, that laughing young daredevil, you know,
Yeah.
Robin, the boy wonder. Anyway,
It's
so
like that needs framed just for you.
I love the whole, the Joker behind bars, like, the
Yeah.
Joker will yet have the last laugh,
Yeah.
like we're going to see him again. And of course, nothing, after a night of crime fighting and taking on the Joker, nothing like the getting home to Wayne Manor and relaxing with by smoking your pipe.
That's
You
right.
know?
Yeah. Ah, what a day. Let me light up my
Yeah,
pipe. Good one. Let's see. I mean, I think we've hit on a lot of points for a 13-page story.
yeah.
Anything we didn't touch on that you want to?
No, I think we've nailed it.
Yeah. Scratched off everything on my list.
I'd say the only thing that's kind of is changed in a way with this Joker today is the dynamic that he's more of the mental psychological challenge to Batman,
Yeah.
because he's not a physical. But in this one, it's like he's kind of holds his own a couple times with Batman.
Yeah, that's a good point. He wasn't right out the gate like you complete me sort of Joker.
Yeah.
He was like Batman's in the way of stopping him. He's trying to not get caught, so he's trying to kill him. At some point, I don't remember when, don't know when exactly, that changed into Joker's Batman's biggest fan, which I prefer that for sure. I
Yeah.
like that. That works really well for me.
The whole two sides of the same coin,
Yeah.
chaos and order and all that. That's something relatively new to the Batman Joker dynamic, and then that's where you get a lot of that influence, like from the other Batman stories, Killing Joke with, his multiple origins, I got these scars that, but yeah, I mean, it, like you said, a lot of good bones here. I mean, this is clearly, you read this and you cannot say, oh, I don't even recognize the Joker. You can't. That's clearly that's the Joker.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you a couple questions now. The real challenging questions.
Yes, you've got a question?
First question. Bill, what was your favorite part of the story?
Wow. I liked think was the second murder and theft with
The armor?
The armor.
Yeah.
And them thinking of how prepared they were, and he still pulls it off. That, darts, and I like that little part of it.
Me as well. I actually marked down that I really think my favorite part is the like the opening up to the death of just kind of wondering. Now, granted, the first page has a drawing of the Joker, so you already see what he looks like. But it could have been cool, I think, too, if of like experiencing it. And so then I think of like updating that in a TV show or a movie or something, and that could be played out really cool and creepy, of like a cold open, in a sense of like a creepy way of introducing a new version of a Joker is even like that time period. So like, a 2024 TV show or movie that takes place in 1940, and a couple's just sitting around the radio, and you hear that Heath Ledger Joker, people will die, sort of deal.
Hmm.
And I just like how that plays out.
Yeah.
And because then you realize also of like how smart Joker actually kind of is too, and how he did all this
Hmm.
before he even made the announcement. So,
Yeah.
how about your favorite panel?
It's small,
Hmm.
very small, but when he's in the lair and he's, sitting there and he's
On his throne.
on his throne with his fingers
Hmm.
up next to his chin, and he's, talking about how he pulled it off,
Yeah.
these fools. I don't know if he said that, but that's
To
basically,
nobody. He's like,
yeah,
hey, you guys wondering how I did this? Let me tell you.
yeah, yeah. I like that. So there
Uh,
you go.
that's I think for historical sake, like I try to be careful to not, exaggerate or overemphasize or anything, be hyperbolic, but like one of Joker's iconic images, because I think everybody
Yes,
knows
I think
what that's
so.
from. You see it,
Yeah.
you know what it's from. Like, oh, that's one of the
Yes.
first images of Joker ever. For me, I love the panel of him as the police officer holding up the Joker card.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And for us who know what that is, I think like I don't know, there's more to that image than just that image. You know what, like, oh, and not to mention it, like reading the story for like the first time of like seeing that panel, then it's kind of, it's an oh shit kind of moment. Um,
Yeah.
kind of like how in the Dark Knight, as the music building, and then the camera quick as a quick shot too. There's Heath is, looking like an officer, turning the gun is a
Hmm.
quick like, oh shit kind of moment. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I think that, I
Yeah.
think the two play off of each other. So I like that panel a lot. Uh, tricky, tricky question, but would you like to see this adapted in animation?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
You could do, I've said it many times, you can take a lot of these single short stories and then adapt it to make a 70-minute,
Mm.
80-minute animated film. I said it about the Joker's Five-Way Revenge, and certainly you could do with this one, kind of like a joke. The first meeting of Batman and Joker without, an origin story like this one. This isn't need. You don't need an origin story here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like
It could,
today, you
go
would
ahead.
like a lot of the mentality of a lot of fans is like, well, it'd been better off. We need to know everything about the Joker and
Hmm.
how he came to be and all that.
Tragic life with a wife and a child, and
Yeah,
he lost his job at Burger King, and something like
yeah,
that.
yeah. So
I,
yes, that's my answer. It could be. You could take this story and adapt it and make it a cool Batman Joker story.
yeah, and obviously there's pieces of this. Instantly, I'm reminded one of my favorite BTAS episodes, The Laughing Fish, took part of this, took obviously Joker's Five Year Revenge, elements,
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. But like I said, in a lot of in those stories, there's some of this story, as a basis of it. And I mean, we were talking Batman Caped Crusader before we started recording, and if that one takes place in a timeless period, I think you could totally work something like this into
Mm-hmm.
an episode of that, into an introduction of the Joker. The audio adventures could have done something like that. It's like
Yeah.
it's I think the foundation of it is such a good story that you can update it to the times and have it totally work, which it has ever since its debut. So that's my long form answer rather than just saying, yeah, like, duh, like you can do it. And I'll be there for it whenever they do, because they'll retell it again. There'll be
Sure.
another
Yeah.
Batman meets Joker for the first time story
Yeah.
again. And I think that'll be cool. Um, That about does it. You have anything left to say? Any final words on the Joker?
No, I think we said it all, but I'm glad we did this one. I enjoyed reading it a
Oh
couple
yeah.
times here again.
Hmm.
Um, I I especially love how it directly leads you to talk about the Dark Knight. Not I mean you, I'm talking about us
Organically.
because
Organically, like
because you
really.
can't talk about this story anymore and not talk about the Dark Knight. That's
Mhm.
just if you're going to talk about this particular Batman Joker story, you 100% have to bring up the Dark Knight movie.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yep. This was a good, I mean, still holds up as a good first appearance of a character. I think, and I've said it before, maybe I think I've said it to you. And it was on a social hour though, of like I think Joker is like my second favorite character. Like
Yeah.
in pop culture, anything. It's just an interesting character to me. Um, and I think I don't know, like it's good to see a date like I don't know, this holds really well 84 years later, I think. Um, so yeah, I'm glad you chose it as well because I thought it was a fun revisit for me and it made me think The Dark Knight and that makes me happy. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, Bill, thanks for coming back on. Always a joy.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you for having me on.
Why don't you plug away in case someone doesn't know where you're at?
Batman-on-film.com. There you go.
All right, easy enough. Easy enough to remember. Dashes. Put the dashes in.
Yes. Yep.
There you go. Go to the website, batmanonfilm.com. Something like Bill also generously posts the Batman Book Club episodes on there. Always appreciated as well. If you want to follow Batman Book Club, you can do that on the social medias at the Batman BC. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel of Batman Book Club or me and good old Peter Vera, the Frolicker. We're gonna be diving into No Man's Land. That's gonna be happening really soon. So check that out. If you want to support the show, variety of ways you can do that. Like I said at the top, patreon.com/the BatmanBC, tpublic.com, type in TBVC. And lastly, if you want to support the show and you don't want to spend any money at all, it's 100% A-OK. The easiest, quickest, and most impactful thing you can do is rate and review the show. So however you listen to the show, go to the rate and review page, rate and review it because it helps spread. The more reviews the show gets, the more it helps spread the word. And as Ra's al Ghul famously said, the word is panic. So for Bill Ramey, I am Ryan Lauer. And until next time, read my Batman comics. The Joker has spoken.